What's up, my channel? It's your friendly neighborhood sassy blonde writer coming at you with a writing video. Today I am going to be talking about the results from my beta reader feedback on my Nancy Drew style mystery. For context, I've made a couple of videos talking about my journey as a beta reader where I was doing the beta reading, but I don't think I've talked about what it was like having my work being read by beta readers. So first things first, I would just like to say that I did not actually recruit any of these people, which was honestly really nice. I used something called the Young Writers Initiative, so I will link to them down below. Really good service, very professional. The people that I worked with were really great, and honestly, it was really nice to not have to go out of my way to find beta readers. It was really nice for me personally to not have to be the one to annoy people with did you fill out the survey? Hey, did you read my chapters in? Hey, did you remember to do this because there's a deadline? So that was really nice. I highly recommend doing something like that. I don't know if there is something for it because I think their cutoff age is like 25. Their cutoff age is 25. So that's how I got my beta readers, and I also do some beta reading with them as well, so that's been super cool. I did it partly because I stagnated on doing the revisions for this particular book. I'm gonna be perfectly honest. I didn't really have a real excuse for why I stagnated. I was just honestly being lazy. So I knew that if I had to show it to people and I had like a set deadline of, okay, I need to send this to this person so that way it can go out for beta reading, then I'm gonna have to get these edits done, right? Correct. So I knew giving myself deadlines would make me have to actually do the work. So that was actually really smart on my part because I realized over this past year of being locked indoors basically is that I don't do well with self-imposed deadlines because I know who made those deadlines and I know that they're full of it, and I also know that unless I actually need to do the thing, if there's no pressing need for me to do it, I'm not gonna do it. This is just who I am. So it was a really good experience. I highly recommend doing something like this, especially if you're struggling to do the revisions phase or the edits phase. So as I've said in previous videos, I myself am an underwriter, and so one of the things that I needed to do on the revision/editing phase of this was I needed to add things to my manuscript. But I just couldn't bring myself to do it because I was at a point where I had several writing projects kind of like irons in the fire. So I needed something to kind of push myself to do this and force myself to actually write deadline. So I managed to actually bump it up a lot. Like I think I added like 20,000 words to the original. This had originally been a Camp NaNoWriMo book. I think it was my first ever Camp NaNoWriMo book. So I think I had originally set the goal for 30,000 words, which if you're an underwriter sounds super scary. And it had actually been very scary for me because I wrote it in a month over the summer. And then I was able to get it, I think, over the 50,000 mark to like 70, 80,000 or something like that. So that was really good. Really good for me. I really enjoyed the experience, especially because the way I did it, I ended up doing it in different chunks. So I think chunk 1 was like chapters 1 through 5. Chunk 2 was chapters 6 through, I think I ended up doing like 6 through 10 because those chapters just happened to be a little bit shorter just because of the way I split them up. And then I think the third chunk was like the end of the book. I had a whole slew of beta reading questions. My beta reading form, I actually ended up making it myself. Didn't do the traditional questions that most people do because I had very specific questions. Because at this point I had been a beta reader a couple of times. So a lot of the questions would be like yes or no and then explain why. I don't always like those types of questions because sometimes I just want to say yes and I just want to say no, but I can't really verbalize why I feel a certain way about a character, or I need like suggestions. So my questions were, what did you think happened in this section? Because I find a lot of times if I have the wrong impression of a chapter or somebody has a wrong impression of a chapter, that will kind of impact how they feel about a certain section. So I wanted to make sure things were clear. Do you have any questions or confusions about the events in this section? That was because I wanted to make sure that my pacing of the events and my explanations of everything were clear and succinct, because I found with the novel I wrote previously to this one, even as I was reading it, I was kind of confused about the timeline that was happening. So that was something that I kind of wanted to be addressed. I really wanted with my beta reader questions to kind of make sure that I didn't want to leave anything to be a matter of opinion, because I'm just gonna sound crappy, but like I didn't really care what the opinions were of like, you like the book, you don't like the book. Like, I wasn't really concerning myself with that. I wanted just concrete, like, this was a genuine good part of your writing, this needed work. Then my next part was, how did you feel about the pacing of this section? And then I had different options: too slow, drag, too fast, rush, just right. I think pretty much for every section people picked too fast or rush. So that is something as an underwriter that I personally deal with, and I think a lot of underwriters tend to deal with. So something to definitely watch out for. Then my next questions were, what did you want to see more of while you were reading? So a lot of people just ask this question, leave it open-ended. I kind of hate leaving this question open-ended because when I get a question like that, I'm like, I don't know. So I gave people different options, and then they could just put other if they read that and they were like, I don't know. The options were, and they could check as many as apply. So, character descriptions, I'm having trouble picturing what these people look like. Fashion, food, culture, I want to imagine the world I'm in. Setting, I'm having trouble imagining what the house looks like. Dialogue, I want to see more communication between the characters. Focus on one character. There was a lot of head hopping. So the reason why I put that last question is because this was the first story I think in a very long time, probably since like middle school, elementary school, that I had written not in first person. So I knew that was entirely possible because that is a pitfall of writing limited third person. So that's why I put that specifically there. And that is one of the issues that I have. Is there a character you want to see more of? What was funny about this was everybody put a character that I ended up adding last minute because I realized when I was going through the first chunk after they had gotten all my beta readers together, and I realized that I mentioned this person like once, and then they never came up again. I was just like, oh no, I gotta add them again. So then I kind of wrote them in last minute, right before sending it off to like be dispersed to everyone. And I gave them like a really quirky entrance and like quirky interactions. Like she just kind of appears out of nowhere. She's that weirdo that you meet in a mystery where she just kind of appears and she just knows everything and just like eavesdrops, kind of creeps everyone out, and then like disappears. You're like, wait, what? Like you try to have a private conversation and you're like, hold on. Gotta make sure Izzy's not here. Let me check the vents. All right, we're good. Hold on. Let me check under the floorboards. All right, Izzy's not there. We can talk now. And of course, that was the character that everyone was like, more Izzy. I was like, all right. So then that was fun because obviously I wrote good characters. So I was like, oh, look at me. I'm giving advice about writing characters and I wrote a good one. Yay. And then my last question, what predictions do you have in any of the various plot lines, family issues, relationships, etc.? I feel like that's like a question you have to ask for mysteries in English class when they're like, what are your predictions? Ooh, did you just guess the entire plot of the novel? I think one person said, well, I'm guessing Blake didn't do it because that's too obvious. So that was fun because I think that I was like, I guess I have to change the ending. So a lot of the feedback and stuff that I got through the Google Forms, I highly recommend using. I haven't really used any other of those survey things, but Google Forms is really good because they just auto-generate these like graphs for you so you can see like, oh, like 20% of people said yes, they can't stand this character, and 30% of people said no, they love this character. So that's always really cool, especially if you want like quick answers. If you want to provide different options for people, that I highly recommend using Google Forms or some type of like online virtual survey. And I also recommend just like providing people with like different responses. I've just noticed in general, the more open-ended questions you give people, the harder it is for them to come up with responses to kind of verbalize what they want to say. Like, what problems did you have with this chapter? It's like, I don't know, when what they mean to say is characters, I don't know a lot about them, or setting, I can't picture this in my brain, it's just this blank space, I don't know where they are. Getting the feedback from my beta readers was interesting because a lot of it was stuff that I already suspected about myself. So it was good to know. It was kind of funny because it was just a confirmation of things that I already suspected about myself. But now it's good because I know what I need to work on as a writer. And now I know what I can make videos on. So that's really good. And I think the questions that I asked were detailed enough and they weren't very opinion based because I don't like asking like, did you like the chapter? Because I don't particularly care whether or not you liked the chapter because you're my beta reader. Like, I want you to like the chapter because that'll make this easier, but right now I'm looking for feedback, I'm not looking for approval. If you're gonna do beta reading, I don't recommend asking questions like that, just because if they don't like the chapter, it's just gonna make you sad and make you wish you had their approval. But if they do like the chapter, then you might get a big head. So, you know, it's just something to consider. I'm here for feedback, I'm not here for approval. Everybody else said that they wanted more descriptions, everything, which I know as an underwriter is something that I do struggle with, because I kind of just want to get to the meat and potatoes of everything. And I just get to the dialogue and the action scenes, and that's about it. I don't really like focusing on setting, and I don't like focusing on description. So a lot of the feedback and predictions seem to be involving subplots and kind of balancing them out with the main plot, which as an underwriter, especially because I was writing this as a Camp NaNoWriMo book, I knew I needed to work on. But it was good to get live feedback and see people's live predictions on what was happening, because I knew that was something I needed to work on, and that's something that I've been working on. There were also questions about like backstories of certain characters, where like one person was like super judgy of one of my characters. Whenever you get feedback, you kind of have to take it all with a grain of salt. Some of the questions just made it clear to me, just like, okay, like, dude needs to chill, but I need to make this more clear, otherwise it's going to be a plot hole. It also said I need to work on reincorporation of like facts about different characters and having it come back up again, because I do have a tendency to just kind of like, it came up once in the first chapter and then never came back up again. The feedback on the grammar was really nice. There were a lot of suggestions and remarks about, specifically this time, I've gotten better about it now, but I do have a tendency to kind of overindulge in run-on sentences. So I pulled a Charles Dickens when I was doing this for Camp NaNoWriMo, and I repeated myself redundantly to just get that word count up. So it was a lot of quantity, not quality, is what we'll call it. That is one of my problems with me personally doing NaNoWriMo. Watch out for it. I know about the run-on sentences thing, and I've been working on it. There was one note that was pretty weirdly phrased. It was like a part where people were yelling, so I had a lot of exclamation points, and somebody was like, oh, many authors say that to make it a point to only use one every like 10,000 words, otherwise it seems like you're slamming your readers in the face with them. Try better dialogue tags instead. And I was like, okay. Overall, it was a really pleasant experience. I think we had like one beta reader towards the end kind of drop off the face of the earth, but other than that, it was really good. It was especially nice because I didn't have to like personally interact with any of these people, so that I knew my interactions with them wasn't influencing their feedback or anything like that. That would be one of my concerns, bias based off of how I interact with them. And also, it was nice because I didn't know these people personally, so I knew that this was just their feedback, because that is something that I have heard, is don't have people that you're personally close with read your manuscript when it's just hot off the presses, because you won't get the feedback you're looking for. It's much better to have like a critique partner or just beta readers that you don't know very well give you feedback like that. So I think this was a really good experience for me as a writer. It definitely pointed out a lot of things that I knew that I had to work on, and kind of solidified what my strengths are as a writer and what my weaknesses are as a writer. So now I know what I need to work on going forward. It also kind of showed me that writing is a collaborative process, which is ironic because it draws a lot of introverts for something that is actually collaborative. It was also nice to see that I actually practice what I preach, writing advice. So yeah, that's all I got for you today, folks. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like if you enjoy these kind of beta reader diary type of things, or writing diary type things, vlogs, I don't know. Whatever this is. If you liked it, give it a like and I'll do more of them. And if you didn't, subscribe anyway. And I'll try to put out more videos. Yeah, so please subscribe to my channel. I post new videos on Wednesdays. And of course, happy writing.